Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about your assignment for rationalism speech to the Virginia Convention. What I did was I included the what your project needs to look like, and as far as the titles and the text itself, which means that includes your context, evidence, and analysis. And what I have first is on the first slide, I have a sample analysis of Patrick Henry's speech to the Virginia Convention. And as you can see here, I've used sort of a creative font that looks like Declaration of Independence writing. This is the place where you get to be creative. Also, your use of images. And if you can find one of a representation of the speech to the Virginia Convention, that's a great slide to put on there as well. And notice that I've cited it right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and go through this and read this with you, and so you can have a better understanding of what I'm looking for. And it's not only for this project, but it's for all of your assignments that require your use of evidence, historical context, evidence, and analysis. So evidence being your quotes or examples from the text, and analysis being how those quotes apply to author's purpose. What is the author trying to say by using this rhetorical strategy or this quote within the text? Those are the kinds of answers that are going to help you to achieve a grade in the high B or A range. And just a few things so you know, Patrick Henry was the master of rhetoric. He was the premier orator, which means speech maker of his time. And what you want to be able to show me is that you understand his use of rhetoric within his text. Now, for MLA purposes, you are supposed to use 12-point type max. Usually 10 to 12-point type is fine. I'm using 10 to 11 in the paragraph parts so that you can so I could fit them all of the information on 2 slides. So anyway, what I wanted to say also was when you're doing a project like this and you're using PowerPoint or some other thing that has slides and pages, what you need to do is make sure that you have enough information. So a lot of you are using very large type and you're not really saying much. And the creativity part is just a part of this. This is English class. So what you want to prove to me is that yes, it's great that you have some little creative touches on your slides and stuff, and that's important too for that part of the grade. But the total that's only one part. The overall grade is, do you understand how to analyze each text? That's what I want to see. And are you using proper grammar? Are you using MLA format? Are you using context, evidence, and analysis? Are you giving enough examples? Is your own example, good enough? Do you have enough analysis? And do you have a good example? So these are the sorts of things that you need to make sure that you have before you submit each essay and each project and each assignment, even each discussion post. Your discussion posts, by the way, are supposed to be used by you all as examples, as practice for your essays and your projects and your analysis within those assignments. I'm still getting a lot of superficial responses that aren't providing me with quotes from the text, that don't have analysis of the text and discussing author's purpose, and that's a problem. So please don't be expecting good grades in your discussion posts if you're not doing that for me. If you're discussing Patrick Henry in a discussion post, then provide me with a few quotes and then analyze each one in great detail. Talk to me about the context of the quote. Talk to me about that point in the text. What point was Henry trying to make? And also, what was his purpose in that? What was he trying to say? In what way at that point in the text was he trying to motivate his audience, his fellow conventioneers? And also, what rhetorical strategy is he using and why that particular one at that particular moment within the text? And you see those sorts of things in the Declaration of Independence as well. These people were masters of rhetoric. So I want you to show me that you get it and use it yourself. So let's talk about the guidelines for success. First of all, for all of these projects, all of your discussion posts, all of your essays, use as many examples and as much analysis as you need in order to prove your claims to be true. I'm still getting emails from people who are focusing on, I want to use this type size and this font and this, you have to just show me that you understand the literature. And that, remember, this is English class, it's not art class. Yes, again, part of your grade is the creative aspect of the assignment. That's only one part of it, though. And if you want full credit for that, make sure you do it correctly. And that includes, you can use little special things on your titles, your special font, and a larger size. But for the text, for the guts of your assignment, this is 12-point type, MLA format, right here, Times New Roman font. I also want to say, when you are choosing quotes from your text, and what you're going to do, it's like writing a paper, even if it's for a discussion post or a project. You're making a claim about the quote, and then you need to prove that to be true. You need to back up your evidence, your claims, with evidence from the text, your quotes, and your analysis. And you need to link that back to author's purpose. Think of these claims as your thesis statements and your main point topic sentences in your essays. Those are claims that you're making. They're hypotheses, just like in science class, and geometry, geometric proofs. And you need to back that up with evidence and analysis in order to prove those to be true. You do the same in English class. So use your analytical skills. All my science and math people that fear English, fear it no more, because you're using the same types of logic skills. Okay, and again, MLA format, we just addressed that. You always must use MLA format in this class, and we've been teaching that since day one, and first week of school, second week of school, and that is what GAVS wants us to use, and that's what you use in your regular English classes in your brick and mortar schools, and that's what you will use in our online class as well. Okay, grammar. I can't stress enough the importance, of grammar. Always use formal English in your essays, in your discussion posts, in any assignment that you do for English class. Don't be conversational. If you do, you lose ethos. You lose your credibility as an author of your text, and in my eyes, your grade's going down. So don't be informal. Don't use informal English. Use formal English only. My second graders learning it right now. And also, don't use contractions. Don't use chatty language. Use formal English. And you all have been learning this since about second grade in grammar school, so make sure you do the same in this class. And I know your English teachers teach you every year, because my colleagues did the same thing, and so did I. Also, make sure, even in the titles of your discussion posts, if I see people's names misspelled, or an author's name, a character's name, and any word in the discussion post title, that's going to make you lose points, because that's the first thing everybody's seeing. And remember, this is a representation of you. So your work, you should take pride in your work and do the best job possible. And that brings me to my next point, edit. Always edit your work before posting. And again, you're losing ethos, you're losing points if you have any misspellings of major words, characters, titles, that sort of thing. Authors' names. And let's see. And again, take pride in your work. That's the big thing. And do it ahead of time as well. Then you'll have less errors. You'll have more time for editing and revision. Okay, context. Provide your audience, me, and your fellow peers when you are doing discussion posts, which is with as much historical information, much historical context as possible. Those are the 4 W's, the who, what, when, and where, and of each text that you're reading. About the characters. If you're setting up a certain quote within the story, you need to give the context of the quote. So always assume that your reader does not know what you're talking about, and that will help you provide your audience, me, with more context. I need to know that you know. It's one thing for you to know, but you have to remember your teachers are not mind readers, and we don't know that you know, so you have to show, not tell, okay? So you all heard show, don't tell for a long time. So show us in your papers. Don't just give us the quote, show me your context, show me that you understand what's going on. Okay, and when you get to that point where you don't need to give as much context, you're in grad school and you're experts in your fields already, or slowly becoming that. So now is the time in high school and college you are still providing your readers with as much context as possible. Okay, evidence. Use as many solid examples or quotes as needed. Go with your instincts. If you know that you don't have much to say about the quote, whatever quote you're using, you are unable to provide any real in-depth analysis, then you need to go back and find a better quote. It's just kind of using your common sense. I'm kind of stating the obvious here. So just if you know a quote's bad and you can't do anything with it, it's because it's bad. So go back and get a better one. Okay, analysis. Your analysis is only as good as the examples or quotes that you choose. And again, it's kind of repeating the same thing. Choose wisely. The more challenging the quote, the better. And again, if you're using a simple quote, if we're talking about rhetorical strategies, and instead of identifying counter-arguments or litites or synecdoche or ethos, pathos, logos, or counter-arguments, I think I already said that, logical fallacies. If instead you're doing something such as, I don't know, alliteration or something simple, don't use imagery ever, by the way, because that won't fly. But if you're using an easy example of a rhetorical strategy, don't expect a high B or an A. Sometimes I know we get behind and we're just trying to do what we do, but please don't be surprised if your grade is not up there where you want it to be, if you're not doing the difficult work, if you're not challenging yourselves. Okay, when choosing a quote from Henry's speech to the Virginia Convention, choose one that has some meat on its bones. Be sure that it is worthy of being discussed and analyzed. If not, choose a different quote. In Henry's speech, choose a quote that uses a complex rhetorical strategy, such as we just said, ethos, pathos, logos, counterarguments, logical fallacies. And counterargument has two parts. It's the concession. It's agreeing with your foe, if you want, in this case the British, taking your opposition side. But then it's a rhetorical strategy. I understand why you want to do this, and this is better for you. But then you do the rebuttal. However, this is not working for us because if you see that in Henry's speech, which it's in there, it's in the Declaration, make sure you use that one. That's a really, really good one. That will impress me greatly. So talk about counterarguments. And by the way, feel free to use those in your essays as well. That's always a good move rhetorically. Okay, and then analyze Henry's purpose in using the specific strategy in the specific place within the speech. What was its function here in this point in the speech and as a whole throughout the entire speech? In essays as well, only choose quotes from sources that prove your claims to be true. Example, if a counterargument is included, why here? Why in this specific spot with this specific topic? For what rhetorical purpose is Henry needing to concede to the king here, but then why does he go ahead and refute these same claims in the next sentence? There must be an important rhetorical move for that. So again, think about that. Why here? Why is Henry doing this here? That again is going to score you big points. Counterarguments are your friend in persuasion because it's saying, I understand my opposition, I understand why you feel this way. I know that this works for you in this case, but then you say, but this is not the case. This is not that moment. We have a different situation, a different context going on here, and this is why that won't work now. So that is the best way to appeal to your audience, is acknowledging their viewpoint. Because think about it, if someone's talking to you and they're not acknowledging, if you're talking to them and you're trying to make them understand something and they're not listening to you, even if it's your parents, if they're not acknowledging your viewpoint, it's frustrating. So think about that in your papers as well. If you want, and think about that in identifying that in text. If someone can do that, a speaker or a writer, that's really good. That's good writing. That's good speaking. So think about that and try to do it yourselves. Emulate that behavior in your own writing. It's excellent. Okay. The next thing, and I'm going to have to move quickly, these screencast-o-matics are only 15 minutes and I'm at 12:39 right now. So the following here is, I took, and thank you to my student, whom she'll remain nameless, but I really appreciate it. What I did was I took his post, which was excellent, and I just tweaked it a little bit and added a few more things, but it was excellent. And it was from Patrick Henry, the speech to the Virginia Convention. And what I did was I set up in the beginning here the context. And you'll definitely want to do that, everyone. And if you don't have that within our own content, then find it on Google and cite your sources. All you have to do is write the URL if you're doing a project. So just cite your sources, cite your pictures, your images, and you'll be good. So here's my historical context. Here is the evidence, and that is also from the site where I found the picture, the same one. I forgot to cite that, so don't emulate me right there, but it's from that same previous page where I cited the picture of Patrick Henry. The evidence, the important quotes you must include to analyze. And by the way, notice I paraphrased. I paraphrased the entire thing. I used my own words. You all have to use direct quotes, partial quotes, and or paraphrase. So make sure you are putting things in your own writing. If you're not, it's plagiarism, so be careful with that. Evidence, choose really good quotes, and then analysis, analyze them. Again, rhetorical strategies. Why is this rhetorical strategy being used in this quote with this topic right now at this place in this text? So important during this rationalism unit. Okay, so historical context. Patrick Henry in a speech to the Virginia Convention, la 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 la. This is 1775. This is the year we go to war with the British. It's a year before the signing of the Declaration. And his speech right here in 1775 on March 20th was an impetus for signing the Declaration. He really fueled the revolutionary tide and really helped to fuel that revolutionary spirit and helped to create those militias to fight against the British. Okay, evidence. Again, this is a really good quote, and I want to talk about this quickly. If it were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. This student uses all of this slavery imagery to help use his argument, and read this here. This is all an excellent analysis of it. And again, my thanks to the student. I have 3 seconds left, and go ahead and take a look